All right, thanks to everybody for attending, and thanks to the panel for all coming along and giving up their time today. These guys are all working in the music industry at the minute, and most importantly from the local area, so hopefully they're going to kick some knowledge about how they got into the industry, what they're doing at the minute, and what opportunities are out there for you. So if we just go along from Kieran and introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and just a bit of background about you and your career, please.
I'll try and keep it brief. Hello, my name's Kieran.
Take as long as you need.
My name's Kieran. I am a sound engineer and music promoter based in Wiltshire. I've been doing shows in and around sort of Swindon, Salisbury, over to Bath, that kind of triangle for about 15 years. Done about 400 of my own, 500 of my own events, but also worked with other people, other venues. I've been doing it for a long time. Done some really big shows, really big venues. But my passion is the roots, which I think a lot of people here will identify with, that we all start somewhere, and being on a panel like today is great news. People like you who can hopefully be the future of our community. So that's me in a nutshell.
What kind of thing does that involve in terms of your sheer music?
Okay, so sheer music, as a promoter, I started out with, a long time ago, sort of 2004, when courses like this didn't exist, or they were just starting. I think I did college in 99, 2000, and we didn't have the facilities you've got here. So where we're dealing with bands and giving them opportunities which you guys you've already got, and we're seeing, like today, this didn't exist when I started. So over time, we started dealing with more people like you who were getting this fantastic start, which we didn't have when I started. So this is great. And I book people like you because what you learn here in college is very different to what you're going to experience when you go out onto the road and start hitting venues up and down the country. And so for me, it was a very safe opportunity to give people an experience, or their first experiences, outside of a classroom. And we've had some great successes. People like Bite the Buffalo, they're 3 or 4 bands prior to that, building them way up to that point where you can go, all right, there's that's what's come to fruition off the back of all those early gigs and early experiences. So that's what I like to do. I like to support people in their early stages, right the way through, hopefully up until they outgrow me, because I only do sort of 200 capacity venues. Hopefully that's hopefully what you'll all do.
Cool, thanks. Kate?
Hello, I'm Kate Lomas. I am a singer-songwriter, artist and producer. I've been working on my own artist projects for about 5 years. Obviously, I came from a place where I started doing it at school and started songwriting, originating on the guitar and piano. And then after meeting this lovely man over here, we worked on a project together, which is known by Kate Lomas, my name. And we've been doing pretty well recently. It's been going really good. We've been developing it for a long time. And I also work in the music industry. I work at a place called Autonomy Music Group, which is effectively a label services. So it offers everything that a music label would do, but it works on a fee basis. So anyone could kind of come along and they have full control over their project and where the money is spent and what they're doing. And it offers opportunity for people to develop themselves without necessarily being signed to a label, develop themselves to a point where they can go into a label and be like, I've got this. This is my campaign. I know what I'm doing. I'm a fully developed artist. Give me a good deal. So yeah, that's...
And what does your role at Autonomy involve?
So my role is campaign coordinator. So I help manage the artist campaigns in terms of their release schedules. So if they've got an album they want to release, we would help coordinate when the singles are going to come out, what sort of PR, where they hit the industry, where they hit radio, and kind of bring the team together to coordinate their full campaign from first single to the release. It involves a bit of everything. We also have the digital marketing strand as well. So that's kind of doing the social media campaigns alongside that. And we also manage some artists such as Feeder and Wildwood Kin, and that is kind of doing the same thing, but less so of the coordinating, more of the day-to-day management. So a bit of everything. Is quite a lot going on, but it's fun.
Toby?
I'm Toby Partridge. I'm a session drummer, also a musical director and a drum tech. Studied at university doing drums, and then went off and started working with singer-songwriters, artists, and just bands in general. Sort of do tours, festivals, studio work, and all that kind of stuff alongside with the drum teching. So that's sort of taken sort of from the UK, also in Europe as well, so which has been quite nice to travel about with it. But I started off at the age of 10 drumming, and I've been doing it now for about 14 years, and semi-professional for the last 4 years.
And what does that involve when you're out as a drum tech as opposed to being a session musician?
So the drum tech side of stuff is a lot of the looking after the kit, tuning the kit, setting up, sound checking, making sure that the drummers are all happy with how everything is, packing it down afterwards, and sort of watching throughout the whole set how the kit is. If anything breaks, I've got to run in. There's a group that I'm with at the moment called the Amazons. I'm also their percussionist at the same time, which is quite tricky to do both at the same time, to play percussion and tambourines and watch drums when they break. But yeah, so then you're packing it down and then getting it all safely into the back of the trailer. So you then do it the next day. And it repeats itself for about 4 weeks.
Reuben?
Hi, my name is Reuben Tyghe. I'm an artist. I've been in the same band for 12 and a half years. I've played just shy of 1,000 shows. When I was 18, I put on my first show as a promoter, and I've been a promoter since then. And 2 years ago, I started an agency branch of the promotional business, my own business, which involves booking tours for different artists. And then just over a year ago, as a result of the work as the agency, I started working for a local music company called Funnel Music. And I'm their head of live, which basically means everything to do with a live show or the band's live careers. I'm sort of looking after that.
Fiona?
Hello, I'm Fiona Riches. Thank you to the college for matching the cabling to my hair. It's bringing me a lot of joy. I'm a live sound engineer and tour manager based in Bristol. I grew up in Exeter, so I'm a proper Southwest girl. I work at a number of venues in Bristol. Thekla is probably my home one. It's a big old 450 cap, and it's amazing. We have national touring acts come through, but a lot of great locals as well. And I also, tour manage for artists. I'm heading out in a week, actually, so I've got to go buy a bunch of socks after this.
And what does that involve when you're a tour manager? How does that differ from being a sound engineer?
So on this tour, I'm doing both. I'm mixing and tour managing, but it's a lot of logistics, a lot of advancing, speaking to venues, making sure I've got all the information. Stuff as simple as having a Wi-Fi password in advance when you're on tour just takes so much stress out of a day. So yeah, tour mama, really, that's my job.
You're looking after everybody else.
Yeah, do you need a plaster or anything?
I'm okay. So the first question is a question that comes up a lot, which is, can you make it from Wiltshire without being in a big city? What do you guys think about that? Do you have any opinions, any particular thoughts on what it takes to make it, if you can make it from the local area?
I'll fill this one as no one else is going to jump in. You probably can. I've known over the last sort of 10, 15 years, people tend to move to big cities to make it. That's not to say that they necessarily live there, but let's take, for example, Thought Forms, which I know a band that probably all know, and if you don't know them, they are a band that originally were from Melksham. The drummer was from a little village called Worton, and so they're a band now that are toured the world. They've toured with Portishead, America, all over Europe and Spain, but actually they still, a couple of them still live local in little villages, but actually they're from Bristol or from Bath, and I think Charlie lives in London now. So the answer there is yes, you can make it from living local or being in a small place, but perhaps you might need to associate yourself with a bigger scene.
Okay.
Anybody want to challenge me on that? Go for it.
I won't challenge you. No, I completely agree. Absolutely. I think as an artist from around here, I've moved to London now, but it wasn't something that I did because I thought, oh, that's my only option. I moved to London. I'm going to make it big. Everyone's just going to see me and be like, yes, which is kind of an illusion that I had when I was younger. I would definitely say that with social media is everywhere now. Everything's online. A lot of the campaigns that we do at Autonomy, a lot of it is social media driven. You don't need to be there in person. And whilst, you know, going out and meeting industry and people in London is a great thing, and it can really work for you, it's not a necessity at all. I think as long as you create good music, have a good online presence, I think it doesn't need to be a restriction that you're from Wiltshire.
Perhaps just going to London and the bigger cities when you need to go is the important thing. What about you, Toby?
Exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I still live in Chippenham. Like I say, I'm a musician. I've sort of thought about that whole moving to London. I've got a lot of friends that have done the move to London, and they found that because there's so many people that have moved to London to do the same thing, then you're fighting even more for the same gigs. And if it's not you doing it, it's your mate doing it. But yeah, I mean, like I say, still live in Chippenham. I travel quite a bit up to London and back down. It's quite nice. I quite like living in this quiet area. Obviously, when I was in Bristol, it's slightly different. But yeah, I don't think you need to sometimes necessarily always do the move. Because with transport and stuff, and like you say, with it, social media, there's a massive part of that, which is something that you use as a musician. And networking, there's the biggest part is making friends with just loads of musicians and sound guys, tour managers, techs, venues. It's, yeah.
Make friends.
Yeah, literally make friends.
Fiona, how different is Bristol in comparison to London, the music scene in Bristol?
I'd say Bristol's friendly. I walk around constantly in Bristol, and I'm like, you can learn how to do literally anything that you want to in Bristol. It's a really great vibe. We were speaking earlier about how great, there's a label in Bristol called Specialist Subject Records, and they kind of have this roster of artists that work really, really hard for their thing and what they're caring about. So I think Bristol definitely has like a community, a vibe. We look out for each other, whereas London, it's bigger. You know, you're going to struggle to find those little pockets of people that are doing the same thing as you. That's my experience.
What's it like putting on shows, Reuben? Because obviously you put on a lot of shows in London and locally as well. Is there a different attitude to the shows in London as opposed to the shows locally? Like, are you more likely to get a crowd in London, for example, through people just sort of showing up? And
I think good music and good art will always transcend location, and I don't think that there's plenty of artists, even from Chippenham. I don't know if you guys know a new band that are sort of on the rise at the moment called Squid. They're a wicked band that are getting played a lot on BBC Six Music. Their drummer went to Sheldon School. Other case examples, Bad Sounds, who are now signed to they're Sony. They're on Insanity Records, which are a subsidiary of Sony. They too are two brothers from Chippenham, and I actually worked with them about 4 years ago. I had the pleasure of being in that band for about 6-7 months, and they just worked very, very hard. It didn't matter where they were. They had their home studio and they wrote, and those songs went through the BBC introducing filter, and then they're on their way. I also think to our advantage as musicians and artists from the West Country is that people in London don't actually really know what goes on down here, and I think that gives an air of mystique as to whom we are, these weirdos down in the West Country. But actually, there's been some incredible music historically over the years. There's a band called XTC that I encourage a lot of people to check out. If you're
from
a musician,
Swindon, they're from Swindon.
Who are from Swindon. They were a band called the Helium Kids for 3 years, and they gigged around Swindon loads, and then they eventually made their way into London, and they were the first band that Richard Branson signed from Virgin Records. King Crimson, another legendary band, they come from a small town called Wimborne, which is in Dorset, in the middle of nowhere, absolutely in the middle of nowhere, and they are now one of the most revered and respected prog rock bands of all time. So I don't think that being in the West Country affects your chances of developing your own art. As to opportunities, then yes, obviously there aren't so many record labels in Bristol. I think I've always talked about ladders out of cities. How can you get on a ladder and out of a city? In Manchester and Liverpool, there are big companies such as big promotion companies, big agencies, lots of independent labels, whereas in the West Country, yes, we do have some in Bristol, but it doesn't seem to be so many. And I think that can sort of be a problem, but like on the flip side, being a mysterious artist who lives in the middle of Wiltshire is actually quite a cool thing. To answer your original question, I don't think it doesn't make a difference. It's all down to the artist. An artist will sell tickets wherever they are, as long as that artist is on their way with their recognition as to what they do.
Just be really good and go where you need to go, I guess. Yeah.
Just concentrate on writing songs. That's all essentially you need to do.
I think as well, it can actually be an advantage being from somewhere a lot smaller because there's so much less competition. Whenever I speak to people in London, they're kind of like, where are you from? And I'm like, Wiltshire. And they're like, great. Okay, so we're not going through London BBC introducing like so much more competition out there. We're going through a smaller BBC introducing, which offers such a bigger opportunity. And speaking from personal experience, like I've been through BBC introducing, and they've just last year they landed me Radio 1 Track of the Week, which is an opportunity that I really don't think would have come about necessarily if I'd been from London and going through there.
You touched on social media. How important is social media in the whole thing? Toby, you're someone who's got a strong social media presence. Is it a key part of your work, or do you think that it's a case of networking locally or face to face as well? How much is social media important in what you do?
Massively now. I think straight away, like if anyone's going to hire a musician or a band, you instantly go to online. It's the same like if you were to go to a restaurant for the evening, you're going to have a look at online what it's like first, what the menu's got. You want to have a little look before you just turn up. I know it's a really weird thing to compare it to, but it's the same. It's literally, if somebody wants to hire somebody, they're going to have a look. If you've got a clean look online, if you aren't posting stuff from your party at the weekend, like, you're keeping it really, really clean, all music related. Obviously, if you want your own private page, you have that. But I think it's so important to keep a professional look on what you do. You can interact with loads of people, other musicians. Obviously, with technology these days, you can do cover videos and play with each other, and you're not even in the same room. And that's really cool because you can then start meeting new people. Some of the people that I've started working with, literally, we've met from just doing a collaboration video, and he's a bass player in London or up north or somewhere. And we've literally just done a video. I've sent him some drums, he's sent back the bass, we've mixed it, we've put it up, and then actually I've gone and then worked with him, or he's shared it on his, and then you just get contacts going. Definitely also great, obviously, meeting people in person. Obviously, it's always going to be like that, but the social media side of stuff definitely is a huge part. You were able to put up what your style is. So, for instance, I do a lot of sort of pop stuff, singer-songwriter stuff, and rock stuff. I can put up videos which have all those, so people can go to, and I can direct them to that, so they can see what they're sort of going to get and what sort of style and sound they're after.
What about on the flip side, Kieran? You're someone who has been doing it for so long and has built your following mostly from just doing so many shows, and everybody's done a sheer music show that I know. How much does social media play into what you do, or is it more about just on the ground networking for you?
Social media really does play a really, really significant, important part, but it's not the be-all and end-all. When I first started doing shows, social media didn't really exist. So I was always newspapers, local radio, posters on walls. And actually, if I did a show and let's say 10 people turned up and the tour manager said to me, well, why didn't anybody come? And they said, well, did you put posters up? And if my answer to any of her questions are no, I didn't do that, then I'm going to look terrible. So actually, I have to do posters on walls. I have to contact the local newspaper. I have to contact the local radio, And then, of course, I have to do the social media. Social media is instant. I can reach out any of you in this room right now via my phone. You don't have to go leave this room. You can all get it. But the other areas are really important too. I mean, we've all mentioned local radio already, so that is really important. But it's about reinforcement. So if you hear a track on the radio and then you walk downtown, you see a poster on a wall, and then you pick up your phone, you see it on there, you've potentially seen that information 3 or 4 times, and it will sink in. You start going, actually, yeah, that looks cool because I've seen that elsewhere. Whereas if you're just relying on one medium, then it's not going to work. So social media is really important. There's lots of different social medias. Instagram is all about visuals. You can embed stuff on Facebook videos. Twitter's all about captions. They're different. They're all playing a really important part, but I wouldn't rely on any single one method.
Kate, as an artist, how important is it to have a brand and stand out from the rest? And what's your kind of advice on that?
I think it's really important to have a brand, but a brand that is really true to yourself as an artist. So it's really easy to get really caught up in this idea that you've got to post every day and you've got to have a brand, it's got to be perfect. I think it doesn't need to be a chore, and it's not all about the numbers. And I think if you can remember that and actually try and enjoy it, people will start to enjoy what you're posting and how it actually correlates with you as an artist, rather than just some picture you quickly took because you had to, and people don't really seem to engage with that. I would say it's a lot more about engagement than numbers. So if you have 1,000 followers and like 100 of them are liking your photo, that's great. If you have 20,000 followers and 100 people are liking your photo, it's not really correlating to fans. And at the end of the day, it's all about people liking your music and becoming a fan. And I think it's like you were just saying, if you've just got a picture online and you haven't got any of the other things, you're not drawing in people in any other way, which kind of makes it less of a fan base, more of just just numbers.
What are you referring to when you say all the other things? So
Other things,
links
sorry.
to your music and...
So you've got the music, first and foremost, the most important thing. You've got the I would say the most important thing is the music. Then you've got the creative. So that is the brand. That's everything you're saying. All the visuals you're using to describe that music and who you are as an artist. And then you've got the rest of the campaign, which is going to be live, radio, PR, etc.
Most of the stuff off social media.
Pardon?
That part kind of off social media and, doing the shows, getting in front of people.
Yeah.
It all ties in, I guess. It's about, like Kieran says, making sure you're doing both to the best of your ability, online and offline.
Absolutely.